We spend $125 billion every year, fixing bridges, piers, and seawalls that fall apart too fast. Cracks spreading, steel rusting out, whole sections crumbling away. And yet, harbor walls the Romans built 2,000 years ago sit at the bottom of the ocean, still getting stronger every year. Not surviving despite the water, getting stronger because of it. For 2,000 years, nobody could explain how that was possible. Not the Romans, not engineers, not even the scientists themselves. Not until 2023, when MIT finally found the answer. This is the story of an accidental invention, a lost secret. And the moment modern science finally caught up with ancient Rome. Let's go back to around 100 BC, on the coast of Italy. Rome was expanding fast, and it needed large and permanent ports. Not simple wooden docks, massive harbor structures built to last. Structures that could survive tides, storms, and salt water for good. They used a mix called opus cementitium, Roman marine concrete. The recipe: volcanic ash, lime, seawater, and loose stone rubble. Poured straight into the sea inside wooden forms, then left alone. 2,000 years later, you can still find those harbor structures. Modern concrete in seawater lasts maybe 50 to 70 years. Salt ions attack the steel reinforcement, cracks spread fast. Seawater is the enemy of every material we use for sea walls. For years, engineers assumed it was simply better mixed. Denser, sealed tighter, better ratios, that was the assumption. But when researchers first cut open ancient Roman harbor samples, they found something scattered through the material that made no sense. White chunks, scattered randomly through the gray concrete matrix. Pieces of lime that had clearly never been fully dissolved at all. By any modern quality standard, that is a clear production defect. Good concrete contains 0 undissolved lime chunks. 0. These chunks, called lime clasts, should mean poorly mixed concrete. So why was this defective material standing after 2 millennia? The answer came from a 2023 study that changed everything. Admir Mazik's team analyzed Roman concrete samples with X-ray beams, and inside those lime clasts, they found something extraordinary. Tiny cracks had formed inside them, running right through each chunk. But those cracks weren't open the way cracks in concrete usually are. They were sealed, filled with calcite crystal that had grown inside. The concrete had somehow reached in and healed its own cracks by itself. The lime clasts weren't a manufacturing defect, they were the key. When a crack hits a lime clast, the chunk dissolves just slightly. It drops calcium into the water, crystals form, the gap seals. The Romans had built a self-repairing material, entirely by accident. But that self-repair was only half of what made this material immortal. Because the seawater moving through it was doing something else entirely. Seawater doesn't just sit passively inside Roman concrete. It reacts with the volcanic ash, the pozzolana packed inside. And over decades, that reaction causes something rare to start growing. A mineral called aluminum tobermorite begins forming in the gaps. Tobermorite is one of the rarest minerals found on Earth anywhere. It normally only forms under high heat and extreme deep pressure. In Roman concrete, it grows at the cold temperature of seawater. Quiet in the dark, in cold salt water, growing over centuries. These crystals don't just fill space, they interlock and bind tight. They weave through the concrete mass, reinforcing every weak point. The more salt water flows through the structure, the stronger it gets. Modern concrete needs steel bars for tensile strength in seawater. Salt corrodes the steel reinforcement. The concrete cracks open around it. Roman marine concrete has no steel inside, and it doesn't need it. The minerals growing inside are the structural strength of the whole thing. A second mineral also grows alongside tobermorite, called philipsite. Together, these two minerals lock cracks shut permanently over time. Scientists confirmed, after 2 full millennia of seawater contact, Roman harbor concrete is measurably denser than when first poured. Not weaker with age, stronger, 2 millennia in and still growing. So the real question becomes, how exactly did Romans make this? Because the method that created it defied everything we know today. Modern concrete uses pre-slaked lime mixed with water first, cooled down, stabilized, before it ever touches the aggregate mix. That's been standard engineering practice for well over a century. Roman builders used raw quicklime, unslaked, pure calcium oxide. They dropped it directly into the volcanic ash mix while still hot. That breaks every rule of concrete mixing, every single one. The heat is sudden and violent. The mixture becomes highly reactive. And you get exactly what the samples show, undissolved lime chunks. The hot mixing method was what created those lime clasts directly. Did the Romans know this was the reason their concrete held so well? Almost certainly not. They had no concept of minerals or crystals. They'd used this method for generations because it held together. They didn't know about tobermorite or calcium ions or self-repair. They knew volcanic ash, raw lime, seawater. That mix just worked. And so they passed that practical building knowledge down through generations. The hot mixing created the lime clasts. That was step 1 of the secret. The lime clasts triggered the concrete's self-healing. That was step 2. And step 3 activated each time the ocean touched the concrete. An accident that outlasted every deliberate modern approach we have. The Western Roman Empire collapsed in 476 AD. And the recipe, the specific hot mixing method, was forgotten too. Medieval builders studied Roman concrete and tried copying the mix. But they used pre-slaked lime. The crystals never grew, it failed. Renaissance engineers analyzed the ruins. They wrote about the ash. But every attempt still missed one critical detail. The lime went in hot. For 1,500 years, the concrete sat at the floor of the sea, getting denser every decade while we built worse structures above. The 2023 MIT paper changed that picture for good. For the first time, the self-healing mechanism was mapped precisely enough to replicate it, to engineer it on purpose now. Research teams are now building a modern version of this formula, aimed at sea walls and harbor barriers built to survive salt water. Material designed to grow stronger in the ocean, not fall apart. Think about what that means. Coasts are eroding, seas are rising. Existing sea walls weren't built to last more than a few short lifetimes. The Romans accidentally solved the exact problem we still face today. And the answer sat underwater for 20 centuries, growing stronger. Roman engineers didn't know the science behind what they were making. They built what worked, passed the method on, and then eventually stopped. 2,000 years of ocean exposure alone couldn't break their work. But 1,500 years of forgetting one key step nearly did. The best material ever made for the sea was a complete accident. And now, for the first time in 2,000 years, we know why.